What if I told you that just 2 minutes of speaking could change your entire IELTS score? Imagine sitting in that exam room. The examiner looks at you, hands you a task card, and says, "You have 1 minute to prepare, and then please begin speaking." Your heart is racing. Your mind is blank. You wonder, what should I say? How do I make sure I sound fluent, confident, and natural? Well, today, I'm going to reveal exactly how. Welcome to TalkTune English. I'm Jason, and in this video, we're diving deep into IELTS Speaking, Part 2. Not only will you hear a complete Band 9 model answer, but I'll also break it down step by step, giving you clear tips you can use immediately. This video is different. It's not just another example answer. It's a masterclass in how to think, prepare, and speak in a way that impresses the examiner every single time. So, stay with me until the end, because I'll also give you some insider strategies that most IELTS teachers never share. Before we dive in, do me a quick favor. If you're serious about improving your IELTS speaking and reaching that Band 7, 8, or even 9, hit the like button right now. It helps more students around the world find this video. And, of course, subscribe to TalkTune English so you never miss my weekly lessons. All right, let's set the stage. What is IELTS Speaking Part 2? In Part 2, also called the long turn, you'll get a task card with a topic. The card usually asks you to describe something like a person, a place, an event, or an object. Then, you have 1 minute to prepare, and you must speak for 1 to 2 minutes. Sounds short, right? But here's the catch. Those 2 minutes often decide whether you get a Band 6 or a Band 9. Why? Because this is your chance to show the examiner your ability to develop ideas, stay fluent, and use advanced vocabulary and grammar naturally. And here's the good news. You don't need perfect grammar. You don't need a native accent. What you do need is a clear structure, confident delivery, and a few smart strategies. That's exactly what I'm going to teach you today. The secret to a Band 9. Let me ask you a question. Have you ever watched someone give a speech where every word just flows? They don't pause awkwardly. They don't repeat the same words. And they don't look lost. Instead, they sound calm, natural, and full of ideas. That's exactly how you need to sound in IELTS Speaking. Part 2. And the best part, it's not about talent, it's about technique. In this video, I'll give you those techniques. Here's the plan. First, I'll show you a real IELTS task card. Second, I'll give you a full Band 9 model answer. Third, I'll break down the answer so you understand why it works. And finally, I'll share my top tips that you can practice today to make your own answers stronger. By the end, you won't just have one example. You'll have a system you can use for any topic, setting up the challenge. So let's imagine you're in the exam room. The examiner hands you this card. Listen carefully. Task card. Describe a memorable journey you took. You should say where you went, how you traveled, what you saw and did, and explain why this journey was memorable. Take a second to think about how you would answer this. Don't worry if you're not sure. That's exactly what we're going to work on. Now, before I give you my Band 9 model answer, I want you to pause and reflect. What journey from your life could you talk about? Maybe it was a trip to another city, maybe a holiday with friends, or even a simple bus ride that turned into an adventure. The journey doesn't have to be exotic. It just has to give you something to talk about. This is an important mindset shift. Too many students get stuck thinking they need something amazing to say. That's not true. Examiners don't care if you went to Paris or just took a bus to your cousin's house. What they care about is how you describe it. So, are you ready to hear a Band 9 version? Great. Listen carefully, because I'll give you the full answer first, and then we'll analyze it together. But before I jump into it, let me ask you, do you want me to keep making these in-depth Band 9 model lessons for every part of the IELTS speaking test? If you do, let me know in the comments below. Your feedback helps me create the lessons that matter most to you. Alright, let's begin with the model answer. Alright, let's imagine the examiner has just told me to begin. Here's my full 2-minute response. Exactly how I would say it in the IELTS speaking test. Shift tone into model answer. Voice clear, steady, slightly storytelling. If I had to talk about a memorable journey, I would choose the trip I took to Kyoto, Japan, about 3 years ago. It wasn't just a holiday. It was an experience that really opened my eyes to a different culture and a different pace of life. I traveled there from Tokyo by bullet train, which, honestly, was a journey in itself. I had never been on a train that moved so quickly and yet felt so smooth. I remember sitting by the window, watching the countryside blur past, and feeling this incredible mix of excitement and calm at the same time. When I arrived in Kyoto, the very first thing I noticed was how peaceful the city felt compared to Tokyo. I spent my days visiting ancient temples, walking through bamboo forests, and exploring traditional markets. One of the highlights was visiting the Fushimi Inari Shrine, where there are thousands of bright red gates stretching up the mountain. Walking through those gates felt almost like stepping back in time. But it wasn't just the sights. I also remember the food. I tried dishes I had never tasted before, like matcha desserts, and a simple bowl of ramen that somehow tasted better than anything I'd eaten before. I even joined a tea ceremony, where I learned not only how to prepare tea, but also how much care and respect goes into such a small daily ritual. What made this journey truly memorable, though, was the combination of beauty and serenity. Everything felt intentional, whether it was the way people greeted each other, or the quiet gardens hidden between buildings. It reminded me to slow down and appreciate the little details in life. So, to sum up, this journey was unforgettable, not because it was exotic or expensive, but because it gave me a chance to reflect, to see life from a new perspective, and to bring some of that calmness back into my own routine. That's why Kyoto will always hold a special place in my memory. End of model answer delivery. Jason. Okay, that's it. That's how a Band 9 response might sound in the exam. Notice a few things right away. I didn't sound like I was rushing. I didn't pause for too long. And I didn't panic if I repeated a word or two. Instead, I spoke naturally, like I was telling a friend a story. Now, don't worry if you thought, wow, Jason, I could never say all that. Remember, I've been teaching and writing about English for years. Your version doesn't need to sound exactly like mine. What you should focus on is the structure, the clarity, and the storytelling style. Here's something important. In IELTS Speaking, Part 2, fluency matters more than perfection. If you make a grammar mistake, keep going. If you can't remember a fancy word, use a simple one. What really impresses the examiner is your ability to keep speaking smoothly and logically for up to 2 minutes. Before I break down why my answer works, let me ask you a quick question. Are you finding this example useful so far? If yes, please take a moment to hit the like button. It really supports this channel and motivates me to create more free IELTS lessons for you. And don't forget, subscribe to TalkTune English if you haven't already. Every week, I upload lessons designed to push you closer to your target band score. Now, let's talk about the key features that made this a Band 9 response. 1. Clear organization. Notice how my answer had a beginning, middle, and end. In the beginning, I introduced the journey, where, when, and why I chose it. And the middle, I described what I did and saw in detail. In the end, I explained why it was memorable and gave a personal reflection. That structure made it easy for the examiner to follow my story. 2. Rich description. I didn't just say, I went to Kyoto and it was nice. I added color. I described the bullet train, the red gates, the tea ceremony. These little details make your answer interesting and show your vocabulary range. 3. Natural vocabulary. Did you notice words like serenity, intentional, unforgettable, reflection? These are advanced, but they were used naturally in context. That's important. Don't memorize random big words. Instead, learn useful vocabulary that you can insert into real stories. 4. Personal feelings. At the end, I talked about how the trip changed me. IELTS examiners love this because it shows you can express abstract ideas and emotions, not just facts. 5. Smooth delivery. Finally, pay attention to the tone. I sounded like I was telling a personal story, not reading an essay. That's exactly what you want in IELTS speaking. In the next part of this video, I'll break down the answer line by line, showing you which phrases are flexible and how you can adapt them to your own stories. I'll also share a simple 4-step template that you can use to create your own answers in just 1 minute of preparation time. So stay tuned, because what's coming next will make you feel a lot more confident about handling any Part 2 topic. But before we move forward, let me quickly encourage you, don't just listen passively. Pause this video after my model answer and try to speak your own version. It doesn't matter if it's short or if you stumble. The key is to practice out loud. Real speaking practice is what builds fluency, not just reading or listening. And if you do practice, let me know in the comments below. What journey would you talk about in your IELTS Speaking Part 2? I'd love to read your answers. And who knows, I might feature one in a future video. Alright, so you just heard my full Band 9 response to the Part 2 task card. Describe a memorable journey you took. Now, let's slow things down and really analyze why that answer works. I want to show you how every sentence is doing a job, how each part builds fluency, vocabulary, and organization. Think of this like an X-ray. We're not just looking at the surface, we're seeing the structure underneath, and once you understand the structure, you can apply it to any topic. Step 1. The opening. Setting the scene. My answer began like this. If I had to talk about a memorable journey, I would choose the trip I took to Kyoto, Japan. About 3 years ago, it wasn't just a holiday, it was an experience that really opened my eyes to a different culture and a different pace of life. Why does this work? First, I repeat the task in my own words. If I had to talk about a memorable journey, I would choose. That buys me a few seconds to get comfortable, and it immediately shows the examiner I understood the question. Second, I add specifics. Kyoto, Japan, 3 years ago. Being specific makes your answer believable and easier to expand. Third, I add an evaluation. It wasn't just a holiday, it was an experience. That makes my answer sound deeper, not flat. Tip for you: always start by rephrasing the question and giving a quick introduction with details. This creates a strong opening. Step 2. The journey. Describing the travel. Next, I said, I traveled there from Tokyo by bullet train, which, honestly, was a journey in itself. I had never been on a train that moved so quickly and yet felt so smooth. I remember sitting by the window, watching the countryside blur past, and feeling this incredible mix of excitement and calm at the same time. Why does this help my score? I use descriptive language. Blur past, incredible mix of excitement and calm. That shows range. I shared a personal reaction, not just a fact. IELTS examiners want to hear how experiences made you feel. I varied my grammar. I had never been on a train that moved so quickly. This past perfect structure demonstrates flexibility. Tip for you: when describing, don't just list what happened. Add emotions and sensory details: what you saw, what you felt, what you noticed. Step 3. The main experience, what I did and saw. Then I moved into the core part. When I arrived in Kyoto, the very first thing I noticed was how peaceful the city felt compared to Tokyo. I spent my days visiting ancient temples, walking through bamboo forests, and exploring traditional markets. One of the highlights was visiting the Fushimi Inari Shrine, where there are thousands of bright red gates stretching up the mountain. Notice a few things. I compared Kyoto to Tokyo. Comparison adds depth. I used parallel structure: visiting, walking, exploring. That rhythm shows fluency and helps avoid repetition. I included a vivid example: the Fushimi Inari Shrine. Naming a place gives authenticity. Tip for you: choose 2 or 3 strong examples to focus on. Don't try to list everything; you'll run out of time and sound rushed. Step 4. Adding extra flavor: food and culture. I continued with, but it wasn't just the sights. I also remember the food. I tried dishes I had never tasted before, like matcha desserts, and a simple bowl of ramen that somehow tasted better than anything I'd eaten before. I even joined a tea ceremony, where I learned not only how to prepare tea, but also how much care and respect goes into such a small daily ritual. Why does this stand out? I shifted focus with, but it wasn't just the sights. This transition keeps the listener engaged. I used specific vocabulary: matcha desserts, tea ceremony. Specific words are more powerful than vague words like good food. I highlighted culture, not just tourism. That shows I can talk about abstract ideas, like respect and ritual. Tip for you: always include 1 extra detail that shows a deeper level of thinking, something cultural, emotional, or personal. Step 5. The reflection: why it was memorable. Finally, I wrapped up. What made this journey truly memorable, though, was the combination of beauty and serenity. Everything felt intentional, whether it was the way people greeted each other or the quiet gardens hidden between buildings. It reminded me to slow down and appreciate the little details in life. So, to sum up, this journey was unforgettable, not because it was exotic or expensive, but because it gave me a chance to reflect, to see life from a new perspective, and to bring some of that calmness back into my own routine. This is the part that separates a Band 9 from a Band 6. Why? I didn't just describe, I reflected. I explained why it mattered. I used higher-level vocabulary: serenity, intentional, reflect, perspective. I finished with a conclusion. To sum up, that signals to the examiner I'm wrapping up, and it makes my answer feel complete. Tip for you: always end Part 2 with a reflection. Don't just stop suddenly. Give a reason why the memory, person, or place is important to you. That shows maturity in language use. The secret formula. So, if we look at the whole answer, we can see a formula. Introduction. Rephrase the question, plus give specifics. The journey background, how it started, how you traveled, or what led up to it. The main events, what you saw, did, or experienced. The extra detail, something unique like food, culture, or emotions. The reflection conclusion, why it was memorable, important, or meaningful. If you follow this 5-part formula, you'll never run out of things to say. Now, don't get me wrong, this isn't about memorizing sentences. Examiners can spot memorized language immediately. This is about memorizing the structure, the skeleton, so you can fill it with your own real stories. Before we move on, let me quickly say, if you're finding this breakdown helpful, please subscribe to TalkTune English right now. It's totally free, and it means you'll always have access to fresh IELTS strategies every week. Also, drop a comment below. Which step of the formula do you think is hardest for you? Introduction, details, or reflection? I'd love to hear your challenges. So now you've heard the Band 9 model answer, and we've broken it down step by step. But here's the big question. In the real exam, how do you actually prepare something like that in just 1 minute? That's all the time you get, 60 seconds. And for many students, this is the scariest part of the test. The examiner gives you a card, a piece of paper, and a pencil. You have to organize your ideas quickly, or else you risk running out of things to say when your 2 minutes begin. Don't worry, I'm going to give you a clear, simple system that you can start practicing today. By the end of this section, you'll know exactly how to use your preparation time wisely. The mistake most students make. The first mistake I see is that students try to write complete sentences during that minute. That's a disaster. You don't have time, and you'll get nervous when you try to read those sentences later. The second mistake is the opposite. They don't write anything at all. They think they'll just speak naturally. But under exam pressure, your brain freezes. That's why you need a middle ground. Write down quick, simple notes that act like memory triggers. The 4-box note system. Here's the method I teach my students, and it works beautifully. Draw a cross on your paper so you have 4 small boxes. Label them like this: introduction, main events, extra detail, reflection. That's it. 4 boxes. In each box, write 3, 4 keywords, not full sentences. Those keywords will guide your answer. Let's see this in action with our sample task card. Describe a memorable journey you took. In my 1-minute preparation, my notes might look like this. Introduction, Kyoto, Japan, 3 years ago bullet train. Main events, temples, bamboo forest, shrine, red gates. Extra detail, ramen matcha tea ceremony. Reflection, peace, slow down, perspective. That's all I need. Just those keywords. Notice how simple they are, but when I look at them, my brain instantly remembers what to say. Why keywords work. When you write keywords, you're creating memory hooks. You're not reading, you're recalling. That means your speech will sound natural, not memorized. Plus, because you're only writing 10, 12 words total, you have time to think instead of panicking. The examiner doesn't care about your notes. They only care about how you speak. Practicing the system. Here's what I want you to do. Right after this video, choose any IELTS Part 2 topic card. Give yourself exactly 1 minute to prepare using the 4-box method. Write keywords, then practice speaking for 2 minutes. At first, it will feel strange. Maybe your answer will be too short, or you'll run out of things to say. That's normal. The more you practice, the more confident you'll get. Eventually, 1 minute will feel like plenty of time. And here's a bonus tip. Practice with a timer. Use your phone. Set 1 minute to prepare, then 2 minutes to speak. The more realistic your practice is, the less nervous you'll be in the actual test. Managing time while speaking. Now, let's talk about what happens when the examiner says, "You may begin." At that moment, don't panic. Take a deep breath, glance at your notes, and start with your introduction box. Remember, you don't need to cover every single point on the card perfectly. The bullet points are just suggestions. What matters most is speaking fluently and logically. If you cover 3 out of 4 bullet points, that's fine, as long as your answer is developed. Here's a little insider secret. Examiners are trained not to punish you if you don't exactly follow the card. They're evaluating your language, not your storytelling accuracy. Handling nerves in the 1-minute prep. Another challenge is nerves. Many students panic when the examiner says, "You have 1 minute to prepare. Here's how you can stay calm." Focus on breathing. Take 1 deep breath before you start writing. Don't aim for perfection. Your notes don't need to be beautiful. They just need to help you remember. Smile. Seriously, smiling helps relax your body and signals to your brain that you're safe. When you walk into the exam with this mindset, you'll be ready to use that minute effectively. Building confidence through routine. Let me share a little story from my own teaching. I once had a student from Vietnam who kept freezing during part 2. Every time, she would stare at the card and not know what to do. We practiced the 4-box system for 1 month. By the time of her real exam, she could prepare her notes in 45 seconds, and she confidently spoke for 2 full minutes. She scored band 8. The point is, confidence comes from having a routine, and the 4-box system gives you exactly that, a quick call to action. If this system makes sense to you, take a second right now to hit the like button. It lets me know that you're finding value, and it tells YouTube to recommend this lesson to more IELTS students around the world. And of course, subscribe to TalkTune English so you don't miss next week's video, where I'll be covering Speaking Part 3 Strategies. Also, I'd love to know, do you usually write notes during your 1-minute preparation, or do you try to memorize answers? Share your approach in the comments. I always enjoy reading about your study habits. What's next? So far, we've covered a Band 9 model answer, a full breakdown of why it works, and a 1-minute note-taking system you can start using right now, but we're just getting started. In the next part, I'll show you how to add advanced vocabulary and idiomatic expressions naturally into your Part 2 answers. Because yes, vocabulary matters, but only if you use it the right way.